When I was little, my world was small. Just school, my family, and the quiet streets of the neighborhood where I grew up. But then came the day I met Emma. She had curly brown hair that bounced when she laughed, and she wore this mismatched bracelet she had clearly made herself from beads and string. Something about her energy made everyone around her light up. But the moment she chose to sit next to me at lunch in third grade, it felt like the universe had finally handed me someone I didn't even know I'd been waiting for. From that day forward, Emma wasn't just my best friend. She became like the other half of me. We were inseparable, like two puzzle pieces that fit so perfectly together it was hard to imagine one without the other. If you saw me, you saw her. People at school used to joke that we were basically twins, even though we looked nothing alike. She was outgoing, funny, and confident, while I was quiet, cautious, and careful. But that was the magic. Together, we balanced each other out. We had sleepovers almost every weekend. We made silly forts out of blankets, whispered secrets in the dark about which boys we thought were cute, and wrote our dreams in journals that we swore would never leave each other's sight. By middle school, Emma knew more about me than anyone else in the world. She knew the way my mom sometimes argued with my dad late at night when they thought I couldn't hear. She knew how I secretly wanted to be a writer, but was too afraid of people laughing at me. She knew how lonely I had felt before she came into my life. And I knew everything about her, too. I knew her favorite song, the one she played on repeat whenever she was sad. I knew how much she hated her freckles, even though I thought they were beautiful. I knew how hard it was for her to live with her stepdad, who always treated her like an outsider. Our bond wasn't just friendship, it was family, it was home, it was a lifeline. So when high school started, I thought we'd be just the same. I thought no matter what, Emma and I would take on this new chapter side by side. But looking back now, I can see the cracks that had started to form even then, tiny little shifts I ignored, because the idea of losing her was unthinkable. At first, it was small things. Emma started hanging out with different people at lunch, people who seemed cooler, louder, more confident than I'd ever be. She still saved me a spot beside her, but sometimes she'd talk over me, laughing louder at someone else's joke, leaving me feeling like a shadow in her light. I told myself it was just high school. Things change, right? People make new friends. And honestly, I was just glad she still wanted me there. But then there were the secrets. We used to tell each other everything, no matter how small. But in ninth grade, Emma suddenly had parts of her life that she didn't want to share. I'd ask her how her weekend was, and she'd shrug, saying, "It was fine." When I pushed, she'd smile in this way that didn't reach her eyes and say, "I'll tell you later." Only later never came. I brushed it off at first. Maybe she just needed space. Maybe she had things she wasn't ready to talk about. But deep down, I felt the sting of being left out, like the invisible wall between us was slowly being built, brick by brick. The real breaking point, though, came in sophomore year. That's when I first noticed how different she acted around me compared to everyone else. In private, she was the same Emma I'd always known, sweet, silly, warm. But in public, when her new friends were around, she sometimes treated me like I was an afterthought, like I was lucky to be sitting at the same table. I laughed along, pretended not to notice, but at night when I was alone in my room, the tears always came. I told myself that friendship wasn't always perfect. That maybe I was overreacting, being too sensitive. After all, she was still my best friend. She still came over some weekends. She still texted me late at night about things she couldn't tell anyone else. But slowly, I started to realize something that made my chest ache. I needed her way more than she needed me. The thing about loving someone that deeply, whether it's family, friendship, or something more, is that you put your whole heart in their hands. And that's exactly what I did with Emma. She was the one person I trusted with every single part of me. Every insecurity, every dream, every hope. I believed she would always protect that trust. I believed she would always protect me. So when the silence started, when she stopped answering my texts, when she walked past me in the hallway without even making eye contact, when she chose to sit with her new friends instead of me, I thought I must have done something wrong. I replayed every moment in my head, searching for where I might have hurt her, where I might have failed her. I begged her to talk to me, to tell me what was going on. But all I got in return was coldness, excuses, or worse, silence. The girl who had once been my safe place, my home, had suddenly turned into a stranger. And for the first time in years, I felt the kind of loneliness I thought I'd left behind forever. At night, lying awake in my bed, I would stare at the ceiling and whisper to myself, "She'll come back. She has to." But deep down, I knew something had changed. Something I couldn't understand, something I didn't want to face. What I didn't know then was that Emma hadn't just drifted away. She hadn't just gotten busy or distracted. She had been pretending all along, and the truth about why would shatter me in ways I never thought possible. Because the person I thought would never betray me, the person I had given my whole heart to, was hiding a secret that would make me question everything we had ever shared. And once that truth came out, nothing about our friendship, my trust, or even my own identity would ever be the same. By the time junior year rolled around, the distance between Emma and me wasn't just cracks anymore, it was a canyon. What used to be effortless conversations turned into awkward silences. What used to be call me anytime turned into unanswered texts. And the girl who once promised she'd never let me feel alone again was now the very reason I felt lonelier than ever. At first, I tried to convince myself it was temporary. People get busy, especially in high school. Between sports, clubs, homework, and college prep, maybe she just didn't have the energy anymore. But the truth was harder to ignore each day. I'd see her laughing in the hallway with her new group of friends, her arm hooked around someone else's shoulder, and I'd feel like an outsider looking in on a life I wasn't part of anymore. I told myself not to be jealous, but how could I not be? For years, I was the person she ran to with every problem, every secret, every joke. Now she had someone else to take my place. The worst part was that she never explained. She didn't sit me down to say, "Hey, things are changing." She didn't admit to being upset with me or tell me I had done something wrong. She just stopped. Stopped talking. Stopped caring. Stopped being my best friend. I tried to reach out over and over again. "Hey, are you mad at me?" I text. "No, why would I be?" She'd reply hours later, short and cold. "Want to hang out this weekend like old times?" "Sorry, I'm busy." Busy became her favorite word. Busy with what? She never said. And even when she did bother to answer, her responses were clipped, distant, like she couldn't wait to get rid of me. The more she pulled away, the harder I tried to hold on. I bought her little gifts for her locker, hoping it would remind her of us. I wrote her notes in class, the way we used to. I even begged her once, right there in the cafeteria, asking, "What's wrong? Did I do something? Please, just tell me." She looked me in the eye, gave me that same empty smile that didn't reach her eyes, and said, "You're overthinking it. Everything's fine." Then she turned to her new friends and left me sitting there with tears burning behind my eyes. Everything was not fine. At home, I tried to pretend it didn't bother me. My mom would ask, "How's Emma? You two haven't had a sleepover in a while." And I'd shrug and say, "We're just busy with school." But at night, when no one could see, I'd cry into my pillow, replaying every memory, every promise, every laugh we ever shared, wondering how it all disappeared so easily. There was one night I remember more clearly than any other. I was sitting at my desk, staring at my phone, hoping she'd text me back. I had sent her a message hours earlier. "I miss you. Can we talk?" I watched the little delivered notification under my text, waiting for it to turn into a read. But it never did. I stayed awake until almost 2 a.m., checking over and over, convincing myself maybe her phone had died, maybe she had fallen asleep. But the next morning, when I saw her at school, she was wide awake, laughing with her friends, her phone in her hand. She had read my message. She had ignored me. That moment shattered something inside me. It wasn't just sadness anymore. It was humiliation. Betrayal. The person I had trusted with my entire heart didn't care enough to even give me the truth. And then came the whispers. I started noticing people looking at me differently, whispering behind my back in the hallways. At first, I thought I was imagining it. But then one of Emma's new friends walked past me and muttered, "Wow, no wonder she dropped you." My stomach dropped. Dropped me? Why would anyone say that? I wanted to confront Emma, but every time I tried, she brushed me off with a laugh or a roll of her eyes, as if I was crazy for even asking. The girl who once clung to me for comfort was now pretending I didn't exist, or worse, pretending she didn't care if I did. I began to realize something I didn't want to believe. She wasn't just drifting away. She was pushing me away. On purpose. But why? Why would someone who had once sworn to be my sister, my safe place, my person, suddenly decide I wasn't worth the truth? The loneliness ate at me. My grades started slipping because I couldn't concentrate. I stopped sitting at our old lunch table and began eating in the library instead, hiding between the bookshelves so I wouldn't have to see her with them. At home, I locked myself in my room, telling my parents I was just tired. But really, I was falling apart. The silence wasn't just breaking our friendship, it was breaking me. And yet, even then, a part of me refused to let go. A part of me still whispered at night, "She'll come back. She has to. This is Emma. She wouldn't just abandon me." But I was wrong. Because soon, the truth started to slip out. Not from Emma herself, of course. She never had the courage to say it to my face. But through the whispers, the rumors, and the quiet conversations I wasn't supposed to overhear. And what I found out made my blood run cold. Emma wasn't just avoiding me. She wasn't just moving on. She had been lying to me, pretending all along. And the reason she betrayed me wasn't just cruel, it was personal. So personal it felt like she had taken everything I had ever given her, every secret, every piece of my heart, and used it against me. It started with whispers. Soft at first, just background noise in the crowded hallways. But whispers have a way of growing louder when you're the one they're about. At first, I tried to ignore them, tried to convince myself it was nothing. But you can't unhear certain words once they're spoken. She's so desperate. No wonder Emma ditched her. Did you hear what she said about her own family? Every word was like a knife. I wanted to scream at them to shut up, to tell me where they were getting this from. But deep down, I already knew. Emma. She was the only person who knew those secrets. The only one I had trusted enough to confide in. No one else knew about the fights between my parents. No one else knew about the nights I cried myself to sleep, scared they were going to split up. No one else knew about the insecurities I had about my body, my voice, the way I sometimes felt like I didn't belong anywhere. No one. Except her. The realization hit me so hard I couldn't breathe. Emma wasn't just drifting away. She was the one feeding the whispers. She had taken the parts of me I had trusted her with, the most fragile pieces of who I was, and she had turned them into weapons. But why? Why would the girl who once Pinky swore she'd take my secrets to the grave suddenly use them to destroy me? I didn't want to believe it. I told myself maybe her new friends were making things up. Maybe Emma wasn't the one spreading it. Maybe she didn't even know. But the truth stared me in the face one afternoon in the cafeteria when I walked in and the entire table of her new friends went silent. Emma looked at me. Not with guilt, not with sadness, but with something worse, indifference. She leaned toward the girl next to her and whispered something, and they both laughed. My heart pounded in my chest as I walked past, trying to pretend I hadn't noticed, trying to hold my head high even as my cheeks burned. But then I heard it, clear as day. Careful. She'll cry about it later, like she always does. That was my breaking point. That night, I couldn't stop shaking. My chest ached so badly it felt like something inside me was splitting open. I went through every memory in my head, every sleepover, every laugh, every whispered secret, and none of it made sense anymore. How could someone who once loved me like a sister treat me like this? How could someone I trusted with my whole world betray me in such a cruel, public way? I needed answers. So the next morning, I found her by her locker. My hands were trembling, my voice shaking, but I forced myself to look her in the eye. Why are you doing this? I asked. She blinked at me, feigning innocence. Doing what? Don't play dumb, Emma. The rumors. The whispers. They're all things I told you. Things no one else knows. Why would you do that to me? For a second, I saw it, the flicker of guilt in her eyes. But just as quickly, it was gone, replaced by the smug confidence she wore so well around her new friends. Maybe people just figured it out on their own, she said with a shrug. It's not my fault if you're predictable. Her words sliced through me, sharp and cold. Predictable. That's what she thought of me? After years of trust, love, and loyalty? I wanted to scream, to cry, to beg her to explain. But the way she looked at me made it clear. She didn't care. Not anymore. And then she delivered the final blow. Face it, she said quietly, so only I could hear. You needed me more than I ever needed you. That's the problem. You're just too much. Too sensitive. Too clingy. I couldn't breathe around you. Too much. Those words replayed in my head over and over again, like a cruel echo that wouldn't stop. It wasn't just the betrayal of the rumors. It was the betrayal of everything we had ever been. All the times she had leaned on me when her stepdad made her cry. All the times I stayed up until 3 a.m. talking her through heartbreaks, failures, fears. All the times she told me I was the only person who truly understood her. None of it mattered anymore. Because now, in her eyes, I was nothing but a burden. I walked away from her that day, but my legs felt like lead, my chest heavy with heartbreak. I told myself I wouldn't cry in front of her, wouldn't give her the satisfaction. But the moment I was alone in the bathroom, the tears came, loud, shaking sobs that echoed off the cold tiles. The betrayal cut deeper than any breakup, deeper than any family fight. Because this wasn't just losing a friend. This was losing the one person I thought would never leave. And the worst part? She wasn't done yet. The rumors grew nastier. Suddenly, I wasn't just the clingy friend. People said I was obsessed with her. That I was jealous of her popularity. That I made up lies about her to get attention. Every hallway I walked down, I could feel the eyes on me. Every whisper, every laugh, every look over the shoulder, it all traced back to her. Emma wasn't just leaving me behind. She was rewriting our entire history, turning me into the villain in a story where I had only ever loved her. The girl I once trusted with my whole heart was now the one tearing it apart piece by piece. And deep down, I couldn't stop asking myself the same question over and over again. Was she right? Was I too much? Too sensitive? Too easy to throw away? But what I didn't know yet, what I couldn't even imagine, was that the worst was still to come. Because the real truth about why she betrayed me wasn't about rumors, or popularity, or even me being too much. It was about something far darker. Something she had been hiding all along. And when I finally uncovered it, the ground beneath me would collapse completely. For weeks, I walked through school like a ghost. The rumors clung to me like shadows, following me wherever I went. Teachers noticed my slipping grades, my parents noticed my silence at dinner, but no one really understood. No one knew that my entire world had collapsed. Not because I lost a friend, but because I had lost the only person I thought I could trust with my entire soul. But then something happened that changed everything. It was a Thursday afternoon when I found myself in the library, hiding between the rows of dusty bookshelves. I had been eating lunch there for weeks, avoiding the cafeteria where Emma reigned with her new friends. That day, I overheard 2 girls from her group whispering near the study tables. I can't believe she actually told people that stuff about her, one of them said. Yeah, but it makes sense, doesn't it? If she didn't, everyone would know the truth. My heart stopped. The truth? What truth? I froze, my breath caught in my throat, straining to hear more. But before they could finish, the bell rang, and they hurried off, leaving me standing there in the silence, my hands trembling as I clutched the strap of my backpack. What truth were they talking about? What could Emma possibly be hiding that made her destroy me first? That question haunted me for days. I couldn't sleep, couldn't think, couldn't stop replaying those words in my mind. Finally, I decided I couldn't just sit back anymore. If Emma had some secret reason for all this, if there was something bigger going on, I had to know. So I started watching her more closely. Not in a creepy way, at least. I told myself it wasn't, but carefully, like I was piecing together a puzzle. I noticed things I hadn't before. The way she avoided talking about her home life now, the way her smile dropped when certain topics came up, the way she always changed the subject when anyone asked about her stepdad. It wasn't until one night when I was scrolling aimlessly through social media that the pieces started to click. A post popped up from one of Emma's new friends. It was a picture of their group hanging out at someone's house, laughing and posing for the camera. But in the background, just barely visible, was Emma. And she wasn't laughing. She wasn't smiling. She was sitting off to the side, her face pale, her eyes empty in a way I had never seen before. That look, it sent chills down my spine. It wasn't the look of someone who was just popular and happy. It was the look of someone who was hiding something. And then, I remembered all the nights she'd cried to me about her stepdad. All the times she said she didn't feel safe at home. All the times she begged me not to tell anyone. That was it. That was the truth. She had turned me into the villain, not because she hated me, but because she was terrified. If anyone looked too closely at her, if anyone got too close to the reality of her life, they might find out. And the easiest way to keep her secret safe was to make sure no one listened to me. I felt sick. I wanted to hate her for what she'd done to me, but I couldn't. Because if I was right, Emma wasn't just a liar or a bully. She was a girl in pain. A girl who had used me as her shield because she was too scared to let anyone see the truth. Still, that didn't erase the damage she had caused. That didn't erase the way she had betrayed me, broken me, left me completely alone. I wrestled with it for days. Do I confront her again? Do I tell someone what I think is happening at her home? Do I stay silent, just like she wanted? The decision was made for me when I saw her one afternoon after school. She was standing behind the gym, away from her friends, her shoulders hunched, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. She didn't see me at first, and for a moment, I caught a glimpse of the Emma I used to know, the scared, vulnerable girl who once cried in my room because she didn't think she was lovable. Something inside me broke. I couldn't stay silent anymore. Not because I wanted revenge, but because despite everything she had done, despite all the ways she had hurt me, I still cared. I couldn't pretend I didn't. So I walked up to her. My heart pounded in my chest, my throat dry, but I forced the words out. "Emma," I said softly. She flinched, turning to me with wide eyes, like she had been caught doing something she wasn't supposed to. For a second, I saw fear. Real, raw fear. "I know," I whispered. "I know something's going on at home." Her face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "I'm not stupid, Emma. I know you've been hiding it. And I know that's why you pushed me away. Because if I was close to you, people would see it too. But you didn't have to do this. You didn't have to destroy me to protect yourself." Her lips trembled, and for the first time in months, she didn't have a comeback. No smug remark. No cold dismissal. Just silence. And then, slowly, tears filled her eyes. "You don't understand," she whispered. "If people found out, if my mom found out, everything would fall apart. He told me. He told me if I ever said anything, he'd." Her voice cracked. She covered her mouth with her hand, sobbing. My chest ached as I watched her crumble. This was the truth. The secret she had been carrying. The reason she had betrayed me. But in that moment, I realized something even more painful. She had chosen to protect herself at the cost of our friendship. She had chosen silence and survival over me. And I couldn't blame her. but I also couldn't forgive her. Not yet. As I walked away that day, I knew things would never be the same between us. The bond we once had was broken beyond repair. And even though I finally understood the truth, the betrayal still cut deep. Because love doesn't erase pain. And trust, once broken, doesn't come back easily. Still, one thing was clear. Emma wasn't the only one who had changed. I had too. And the final chapter of our story was yet to be written. The weeks after Emma's breakdown felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath. For so long, I had begged for answers, begged to understand why she pushed me away, why she let me drown in rumors and whispers. Now I had the truth, and yet, instead of relief, I only felt emptiness. I wanted to feel compassion for her, and part of me did. Knowing she had been carrying that pain, that fear, that secret about her stepdad, it explained everything. It made her betrayal less about me and more about her survival. But the wounds she left behind on my heart weren't magically erased just because I finally understood. She had chosen her secret over me. She had chosen silence over loyalty. And I was left to pick up the pieces of my own broken trust. The hardest part wasn't the whispers at school, or the way people still looked at me like I was some pathetic leftover of Emma's old life. The hardest part was waking up every day and reminding myself that the girl who once promised to be my sister wasn't mine to hold onto anymore. I kept my distance from her after that. Not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. I had spent too long begging for her attention, too long letting her decide my worth with her silence. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't keep chasing someone who had already let me go. But fate has a way of forcing closure when you least expect it. It was late one Friday evening when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. My heart skipped when I opened it and saw her name. "Can we talk? Please. Just one last time." Every part of me screamed not to go. To protect myself. To stay far away from the girl who had caused me so much pain. But deep down, I knew if I didn't see her one last time, if I didn't hear her out, I'd carry the weight of unanswered questions forever. So I agreed. We met at the park where we used to spend summers as kids, lying on the grass and dreaming about the future. When I saw her sitting on the swings, her shoulders hunched, her hair pulled back messily like she hadn't slept in days, my heart clenched. She looked so different from the Emma I had known, so much smaller, so much more fragile. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The silence stretched between us, heavy and uncomfortable. Finally, she looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Her voice cracked, and she quickly looked away. "For everything. For the rumors, for pushing you away, for making you think you weren't enough. You didn't deserve any of it." I stood there, frozen. Part of me had longed to hear those words for months. But now that they were here, they didn't heal me the way I thought they would. "Why, Emma?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Why did you have to destroy me to protect yourself? Why couldn't you just tell me the truth?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Because I was scared. You were the one person who saw me, the real me. And if you saw too much, you'd see how broken everything really was. I thought, if I made you hate me, you wouldn't look too close. You'd stop asking questions. And then maybe I could keep it all together." Her words gutted me. Because they were honest. And because they didn't change the fact that she had still made the choice to hurt me. "I would have stood by you," I said softly. "I would have protected you. I would have kept your secret if that's what you wanted. I would have been there. But you didn't even give me the chance." She looked at me then, her eyes filled with regret. "I know. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life." For a long time, we sat there in silence, the night air cool around us, the sound of leaves rustling in the breeze. There was nothing more to say. No apology could undo the pain. No explanation could rewrite the past. Finally, I stood up. My voice was steady when I said, "I forgive you. But I can't forget. And I can't be your person anymore, Emma. That part of us is gone." Her face crumpled, and she nodded. "I understand." And just like that, the girl who had once been my other half, my safe place, my sister, slipped out of my life for good. Walking away from her that night was the hardest thing I had ever done. My chest ached, my eyes burned with unshed tears, but for the first time in months, I felt a strange sense of peace. Because finally, I wasn't waiting for her to come back. Finally, I wasn't begging for her love. Finally, I was free. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Healing never is. But slowly, I began to find myself again. I started writing in my journal, pouring out the emotions I had once only trusted Emma with. I joined a creative writing club at school, and for the first time, I shared my words with others. To my surprise, they listened. They cared. They didn't laugh. I made new friends, not overnight, not effortlessly, but slowly. Friends who didn't see me as too much. Friends who valued me for who I was. Friends who proved that Emma had been wrong. And most importantly, I learned that my worth didn't depend on anyone else's love or loyalty. Not Emma's. Not anyone's. The pain of losing her will always be a part of me. The betrayal left scars I'll carry forever. But those scars don't make me weak. They make me stronger. They remind me of what I survived, and of the fact that even in my darkest moments, I was enough all along. Sometimes, when I pass the park or walk by the hallways where we once laughed together, the memories still sting. I still miss the girl she used to be, the friendship we once had. But I don't miss the pain. I don't miss the silence. I don't miss the way I used to beg for her love. Because now, I know better. My best friend was the only person I trusted with every secret. But when she betrayed me, when she broke me, she also gave me something I never expected. She gave me the chance to find myself. And that's a truth I'll never let go of.